Buenas noches. Good evening. First and foremost, let me thank Dr. Daniel for the opportunity to address you and to share some of my experiences as a trade unionist in this country. And I would like to begin my remarks quoting Amílcar Cabral, and I will paraphrase him. He said once that solidarity is not an act of charity. Solidarity is an act of defense of mutual interest. And one lesson that you learn as a trade unionist is that when you exercise solidarity, you're not only defending the interest of your own members, but you're defending also the interest of fellow working class people around the world. 1199 is about 400,000 members. We have over 100,000 members in the state of New York. We have members in Florida, Maryland, DC, New Jersey, and Massachusetts. The union was founded in 1932 by a group of Jewish pharmacists. In the early years of the union, in the tail end of the Depression, the union was mostly pharmacists and what at that time used to be called soda jerks. In 1959, the then president of the union, Leon Davis, went to organize hospital workers by law, both federal and state. Hospital workers were not covered under the National Labor Relations Act and did not have the right to organize. And after a lengthy 40-plus day strike, the union in 1959 won the recognition, not a union contract, but the recognition in a number of hospitals in New York City. One of them was Montefiore. One early lesson of the struggle for unionization of hospital workers was the need to build solidarity within workers of different backgrounds. There were Puerto Rican workers, there were African American workers, and Caribbean workers. And as a result of that unity over the years, the work of 1199, uniting people that are of the same class, of the same economic class, but they may have been born in different parts of the world or have different cultural traditions. One issue is how do you unite people to understand that their common interest is against a class opponent, not against each other, especially in a country where workers have been divided because of propaganda and misinformation and disinformation, have been, even in cases, voted against their own self-class interests. Witness the election of Ronald Reagan for 2 terms in this country, and that was an example of workers voting against their own class interests. In the practical sense, the things we have done over the years in 1199 is using the struggles in the workplace to unite and educate people about each other and our commonality of the struggle. One example, and maybe people will not think that is that significant, is that one of the largest parades in this country is the Labor Day Parade in Brooklyn. 1199 participates in that parade as a union, but it's not only the Caribbean, the people from Trinidad, Tobago, or the people from Jamaica, or from Barbados, or wherever else in the English-speaking Caribbean that participate as 1199. It is also our Dominican, our white, our Chinese, our Puerto Ricans, brothers and sisters that see themselves that participating in that parade is a reflection of their pride as a union members and union participant. For example, I was speaking here with 2 people, and found out that my brother over there, his wife, is an 1199 member, and found out at that other end a sister that is living in Georgia that says every time she wears that 1199 jacket, she feels deprived of being an 1199, a former member of 1199, but she still considers herself a member. I would like to share a couple of personal things about me. I was born in the Dominican Republic in 1965. I was born in 1948, and I left in 65. So I'm very proud of telling my age. I'm 65 years old. I came to this country as a result of being, we have a popular uprising in the Dominican Republic in 1965, and the then President of the United States, Lyndon B. Johnson, used the excuse that there were 55 communists in the Dominican uprising, and he sent 42,000 Marines to deal with the 55 communists. So I have participated in the uprising, joined the Constitutional Army. I was arrested, spent a few months in jail. My mother was at that time living in New York. She went back, got me out of jail. I came to New York, and it was the shock of my life. My first reaction arriving to New York is, what the heck do you do in a demonstration against the police? There is no stones to throw anywhere. Back home. Anybody here from the Caribbean, you know what I'm talking about. You have a general strike, you grab 2 stones and you go to the demonstration. But then there were other things. I haven't never seen the cops in New York use tear gas. Never seen it. I have seen Washington cops use tear gas, not in New York City. But one thing that after I overcame my initial cultural shock of only being able to ask for tuna, because tuna in English is the same as in Spanish, one thing that I'm extremely grateful is to finding towards the end of the 60s, my sisters and brothers in the Black Panther movement and in the Young Lords. Because through those 2 movements, and then thanks to my sister Esmeralda Brown and her brother Humberto, I gained the consciousness that I was a person of African descent. Esmeralda spoke earlier. She mentioned how in the Dominican Republic everybody's called Indian. Actually, it's not Indian. My Dominican passport, my original Dominican passport, says that my color, rid of this, is dark-skinned Indian. I am not damn Indian. The indigenous people in the Dominican Republic and Haiti were very early eliminated, killed by diseases, by the oppression of the Spaniards, and they were replaced under the advice of Father Las Casas with slaves brought in from Haiti. And that's what from Africa. That's what I mentioned earlier, that one of the earliest rebellions in the continent against slavery was in the island of Hispaniola, Santo Domingo, whichever name you want to use, in the 1520s. So I come to New York, and I discover that the system of education in the Dominican Republic is one that distorts who we are, that brainwashes us only in thinking that we're children of Mother Spain. As a matter of fact, in Spanish, they refer to as La Madre España. The only thing that nobody ever told us, that Mother Spain was a real bad mother to all of us in the continent. Throughout the 70s, that involvement in various struggles in the U.S. Increased that awareness around the issue of our African heritage, that we are children of Africa, not children of Spain. My work in the union, and I think unions can be a wonderful laboratory under the correct leadership to this issue of how do you educate workers about who they are, how do you use the struggle for better wages, for better working conditions, for better housing, for better school, as a way to unify people that have the same history and should have the same interest because they belong to the same economic class, and how do we use that opportunity to educate workers around the question of what is the reasons for their oppression and how collective action can bring about change. So in 1199, and you will hear Brother Waldava speaking about the question of immigration, for us the participation in the immigration rights movement is a way to also reaffirm that the question of immigration reform is not one only of the Latino, Hispanic community, but is an issue also of the African community, or the Afro-Caribbean, the Asian, the Pacific Islanders community that are undocumented in this country. But we don't limit ourselves to the question of just the economic demands in the floor in the hospitals where our members work. Stop and frisk in New York became and has been an issue. Many of you have followed the statistics. Millions of children, black and brown children, stopped by NYPD. And we've been struggling for a long time against this. This year, along with the NAACP, we organized, and other organizations, we organized a stop and frisk silent march along Fifth Avenue to denounce stop and frisk and the practices of NYPD. And I don't know if all of you have followed the news. A court ruling said that what NYPD was doing was unconstitutional, and they have now the PBA, the Detectives Endowment Association, and that fool of Mayor Bloomberg in New York running around crazy because now they're afraid because laws that were enacted by the city council said that police officers that are guilty of stop and frisk can be sued by the individual that have been stop and frisked by the police. I'm trying to be mindful of the time, so.
You're slightly over, so you should.
Yes, so I just wanted I want to make two appeals. Brother Beasley spoke about the situation in Haiti, actually in the Dominican Republic. That ruling was not a government decree. What happened was a Dominican Haitian woman tried to register as a voter, and she was denied the right to register because they refused to give her a birth certificate. She appealed to the courts, and our highest court is called the Tribunal Constitucional, which is constitutional court, similar to your Supreme Court, ruled that Haitians born between 1929 and 2007 of people that were in transit, according to their language, undocumented, are not entitled to Dominican citizenship. So now we have tens of thousands, and I repeat, tens of thousands of Haitians born in the Dominican Republic between 1929 and 2007, and their descendants, we're talking about at least 5 generations, that are not entitled to a Dominican birth certificate. Without a birth certificate, you cannot get a passport, you cannot get married, you cannot get a cedula, which is our national identity. But these thousands of Haitians, or Dominicans born, or Haitians born in the Dominican Republic, are also not citizens of Haiti. Because the Haitian government said they were not born here, they're not Haitian citizens, and the Dominican Republic is saying, well, you're not entitled to a Dominican citizenship. So now we have what I term as a judicial genocide against our sisters and brothers, Dominican Haitians born in the Dominican Republic. And I make an appeal to all of you that we need to begin a campaign to shame the Dominican government, the Dominican judicial systems, and to call for all the international forums, whether it is the United Nations, Amnesty International, the councils of churches, the Bishops Association, whatever group, the NAACP, to make a call for denunciation. But I think the most important element on this is also organizations like mine, like 1199, will be taking a public position, and beyond that is those Dominicans living in the United States, living in Puerto Rico, in Venezuela, where we are immigrants, standing up in solidarity with our sisters and brothers in the Dominican Republic. The other day, the Dominican governor was hosting some event, and a group of Dominican women went to that event holding up signs saying, "We are all Haiti." And I call on all of you to say today, we are all Haiti, and we stand with our sisters and brothers. Thank you.